What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be an updated Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for Nekroz for the November 9th, 2015 format. The format where Shred is banned and Brio and Unicorn both got moved to 1. Now you might be saying immediately, what are you doing, Phoenix? What are you doing? This deck is remotely not playable anymore in the slightest, and that's where I would tell you that you are wrong. There are a lot of different ways that this deck can adapt, and yes, it did knock the deck out of its best, deck in the format status, but I think Cosmos might have done that already without the ban list even doing anything. So, because this deck had a lot of problems trying to keep up with their monsters before the new wave of support that they just got. But I digress. The entirety of the Nekroz deck has shifted in its focus of how it has to operate, and there are multiple different builds that you can, utilize and attempt to play that can make value out of the fact that Shrit is no longer legal. Now, you're not going to be having those risk-free interactions where you're able to cycle back a monster by tributing Shrit out of your hand and then throwing them into back row, and Shrit will still get you value and get you an additional follow-up play. Those days are absolutely gone. I will agree 100% with you. But this deck does have the ability to adapt into a different function. Basically, it turns more into Valkyris plus rank 4s, just being very oppressive with how the game is played moving on. But I have a couple of games filmed that I'm going to be putting up on my channel later today as well to accompany this deck profile, showing how the deck can play and sort of, different lines of play the deck can adapt with this current build. I've tested a lot of builds, but this is the build I've had the most success with going forward, although it may change. But anyway, there's 25 monsters, 8 of them are Nekroz Ritual monsters, 1 Trishula, triple Valkyris, which is easily the most important card now. You very rarely drop Trishula. You usually do once a match, maybe. But this guy, you play the stick Valkyris on board and keep it there and keep tributing cards out of your hand and getting pluses game so much now. If the Nekroz mirror isn't as prevalent, this is a really weird paradox in that if the Nekroz deck is considered to be dead, the Nekroz mirror match is not going to be nearly as prevalent as it was. So you can, afford to go first turn, put a Valk on board, tribute cards out of your hand and get pluses, and you'll be fine. But then as soon as that's deemed to be good, Nekroz will start being played more, thus making the mirror match more prevalent, thus meaning you have to possibly go back to the old days of clearing your board with Valk and foregoing the pluses that you can get. There's a lot of very strange things that can happen there. It all depends on how accessible Trishula is very early in the mirror match. Honestly, that's what it mainly would depend on going forward. I don't think this deck can keep up with the Bosch format, with the Breakers of Shadow format, but for right now it's still doing very good. It's still able to completely push people's throats in with anyone that tries to play anything but Cosmos, and even sometimes against Cosmos you can just have a really good game where you open very well and they can't do anything to you. But anyway, the 1 Brio and the 1 Unicorn that you're allowed to play, sad face, and then 2 Colossalises to round out the ritual monsters. There's 8 of them. And then the last 2 Nekroz monsters in the entire deck are 1 Dance Princess and 1 Great Sorcerer. There's no real value to play Exa anymore because, Shrit's gone and you don't want to play cards like Decisive Armor or Catastor because of the fact that, you can't drop Decisive Armor that easily because you want to be very, cautious about when you're banishing your Brio. And you basically just want to be able to get all your stuff back, like your Unicorns and your Brio back, off of tributing this off Valk. There's a lot of different reasons that come into play. But also, since those are both level 4s, they do work very well with the rank 4 aspect of the engine that is going to be shown later, because this deck does play the Brilliant Fusion Gem Knight engine to push a lot of plays through. But Konami left us with 6 Jews, so we're going to play all of them because you want to get to these cards very quickly. And then a new addition to the deck is 1 copy of Deep Sea Diva and 2 copies of Vision Gishki. Now, for those of you that don't know what Vision Gishki does, it is a level 2 Sea Serpent, so it's a target for Diva. And its effect is that it's basically the exact same as Shrit. Both Vision and Shadow Gishki are the exact same as Shrit in the fact that if you are going to use it as a requirement for the ritual summon of a water monster, you can use this as the entire ritual requirement. Both Vision Gishki and Gishki Shadow share that same characteristic, and it's the original characteristic of the Gishki deck that in lore got modified into Nekroz. So you use Vision Gishki basically as the Shrit replacement, and you use Diva to work as the 3rd Vision Gishki as well. I keep saying Vision Gishki because that's what its original name was, and that's why I keep calling it, but it is Gishki Vision. If you can't see, but I'm pretty sure you can. But Diva works as the 3rd copy of Gishki Vision, in that if you draw it, it can be this for a ritual summon, But if you also just draw Diva or get into Diva through turboing through your deck with Valk and all that nonsense, you can summon Diva, get Gishki Vision out of your deck, and you can make Herald of the Arclight, which makes you have a lot of advantage moving further into the game off of cards like Instant Fusion, getting, Nodin to get back the Herald of the Arclight that was properly synchro summoned. Herald being on the board itself is just a huge threat. There's a lot of different factors, and it basically is like a third Manju, third Senju in that regard, because you can just get Herald out of your deck, and it also is just the third card that allows you to get this guy out, that allows you to cycle by, it basically keeps your cycle plays really strong, because this replaces the Shrit. Although it doesn't get you the Warrior Ritual from your deck, like, it's still just, it serves the same functionality. And then the rest of the monsters is a small clown engine, but that's perfectly fine because of the Brilliant Fusion engine is essentially an additional clown for every Brilliant Fusion in the deck, because it gets you Damage Juggler in the grave, which gets you one of these. But 2 Damage Juggler, 1 Trick Clown, 1 Hat Tricker. I experimented with a bigger engine, but it just started being really cloggy alongside the Divas and Visions and all that, so I just decided to cut them. And then these are both supposed to be Gymnite Garnets, but I can only find one in my entire box of just random cards. So this Amber is technically supposed to be another Gymnite Garnet, but that extra 300 attack doesn't actually matter. It very rarely comes up, and Gymnite Amber does the exact same thing as Garnet does. It's a normal monster, it's a Gymnite in your deck, and it's a normal monster in your graveyard. Like, literally all the same plays are available with either of these cards, but this is supposed to be a second Garnet for continuity's sake. And sometimes that attack, that 300 attack does come up if you're able to just casually open Garnet against a Thunder King, like things like that. Things do make it come up, but that was the monsters. There are 15 spells for the remainder of the deck. 2 copies of each Nekroz ritual spell. I haven't done enough testing at this point to warrant if any of these need to be bumped to 3 or if any of them need to be cut to 1. You'd think that Kaleidoscope has less utility with 1 Unicorn, but you just start Kaleidoscoping for 12 a lot, and every time you have a play, you're able to usually pump out 1 to 2 rank 4s, and one of those is almost always an Emerald, and you're infinitely Emeralding back the Unicorn. So you're able to drop multiple Unicorns per game, even though there's only 1. And with Cycle, I don't think Cycle warrants going to 3, being bumped to 3, simply because Shrit, is gone, so it's not as easy to access. If I can articulate my tongue and my thoughts in a method that allows me to speak them, we would be golden. But Mirror is definitely probably the most important one, but I don't even think it needs to be bumped to 3. Like, I've been having a fine time with the standard 2 of each ratio. Like, I haven't been having any problems, but who knows? Those might come up the more I test this deck. But the 1 prep, obviously. 3 copies of Brilliant Fusion. Like I said, this card is essentially another clown, because you play this, you send Garnet, and you send the Damage Juggler to your grave, or you send Trick Clown straight, and it comes back, or you get Damage Juggler to search for Trick Clown. It depends on what your situation is. Allows you to summon Seraphonite, and Seraphonite is very, very relevant for this deck, specifically because it's a level 5, so it facilitates easier summoning of Valkyrus, because it gives Nekroz Mirror a lot more value really early, because you can have Brilliant Fusion plus a Manju plus like a Valkyrus or a Colossus in your hand. You Manju for whatever you're missing, you Brilliant Fusion for Seraphonite, you get a clown to your hand in the form of Trick Clown off Damage Juggler that you sent off this, and then you're able to Colossus for Mirror, play Mirror, and banish Colossus, and then tribute the Seraphonite to summon Valkyrus after you've used your additional normal summon, and then Valkyrus can then pop your clown out of your hand. So it gives you a lot of value, this card, as well as Seraphonite just allowing you to normal summon twice by itself, even if you're not trying to establish some sort of Valk play, even though that is what you're doing most of the time to just turbo further into your deck. It just does a lot. Like, the games that you don't have this card, you'll definitely notice it's a lot more of a struggle. But then again, this entire deck is basically turned into Valk Turbo at this point, because you're just going to be trying to draw 2 cards and get as many pluses off Valk every turn, seeing 3 new cards that you're drawing. So even these non-searchable cards like Brilliant Fusion and Instant Fusion are cards that you can still see very easily because you're drawing 3 cards a turn. So just lots of different factors like that go into play. But for the last spells, 2 copies of Instant Fusion. I want to bump it to 3, but it started being really cloggy, and I didn't want to have to dedicate the extra spot in my extra deck for a second Norden, because you're able to put the first one back off the first Instant Fusion and do things like that. And then the last 3 cards in the deck are just Consistency Enablers, Triple Upstart Goblin. I didn't see any other real need to run any other cards other than these, because your entire game plan now is to try to just get to combo cards. You can flop very quickly with this deck if you don't have a combo hand. and Upstart just gives you extra consistency to warrant against that. But anyway, extra deck is 112 and 2 Heralds for Kaleidoscope. I'm still playing double Herald. I thought about cutting it to 1 and making another spot and just doing a 12 and a 4, but because Diva has the accessibility to go into Herald, and you do use Unicorn, Kaleidoscope Unicorn plays at least once during almost every game I've found. I wanted to keep the 2 Heralds in here so that I could Diva summon one of them, have the potential to Diva summon one of them, and then still have one in the extra deck for a potential Kaleidoscope play either before or after that happens. I just didn't want to restrict myself. 2 copies of Seraphonite for the Brilliant Fusions. This could be cut to 1, but it basically locks you into emeralding the first one back every single time, or else that you're going to risk drawing a dead Brilliant Fusion. So like, I'm just playing 2 of it. And then 1 copy of Nodin. This I am willing to play 1 of because Instant Fusion, it's a non-searchable combo card. You can draw into it. I'm only playing 2 of it, so your chances of drawing both are really low without having a chance to put Nodin back. But if you have both Instant Fusions in your hand, then you basically just have to structure a play where you Instant Fusion the first Nodin out, then Emerald it back in the same play, just to be 100% safe. But that very rarely comes up. For Exceeds, Masquerade, just in case like you play against Nekroz and you have to get through Valkyries and Clowns. Castel, Diamond Dyer. These put in a lot of work. I actually want to up like Castel or Diamond Dyer to 2, but it's actually fine being at 1 of each, I've found, because this deck is so heavily aggressive with rank 4s that you can make, that you can, use Castel, spin a card, tribute Elf of Out, put it back with Emerald, and then make it again. Like, there's a lot of instances where both of these cards can just be recycled multiple times in a game and made again and again. These cards are definitely probably the most made cards in the extra deck, other than Daigusto Emerald now, because like you want to just clear threats with these, and it's so easy to clear threats with these, recycle them back, and then keep doing it for the course of a game. Then 2 copies of Daigusto Emerald. I think this is 100% mandatory at this point. Hell, even a 3rd one might be mandatory, or even like a 3rd one might be good, because basically you just make the first one. And there are a lot of instances where you can make 2 Emeralds in the same turn while also putting a rank 4 on the board. There are so many times when you can make like 3 rank 4s in a turn. And sometimes you'll just want 2 of those to be Emerald so you can like keep getting more combo cards and recycling your combo cards. So I might actually play a 3rd Emerald, because if you put 1 Emerald on the board at a time and it goes to the grave and you're able to summon the 2nd Emerald and put the 1st Emerald back, congratulations, it's infinite and you're completely safe. But the second that you put 2 Emerald on the board, you're at risk of breaking that infinite string, because if both of them leave the field before your next turn comes, if one of them leaves the field, it's fine. But if your opponent is able to like Raigeki you or do something where both of them end up in the graveyard, you're basically like stuck with a very finite pool of resources for the remainder of the game. And that's not something I'm a fan of, so I might end up playing the 3rd Emerald. Who knows? But double Abyss Dweller. I've been liking this card at 2 still, simply because I do still play against BA. And it's really good against Cosmo to clear one of their big ships out of the way. Like this alone, this plus a Valkyris alone gets over every Cosmo monster. And like that's something that people forget to consider, is that like you make this with a water under it and you have a Valkyris up, that Valkyris is now 34, so it can even get over Dark Destroyer, and you attach a material and they can't recruit with their Dark Destroyer. It just stays in the graveyard. Like that's something that people don't seem to like want to give credit to, is like that Dweller plus Valkyris or Dweller plus Trish gets over every single Cosmo monster in the deck in terms of the big ships without, outside influence like Yugioh or Honest or whatever. But it just gets over those threats, and it deals with them in a very efficient manner, and then you also have Dweller to follow up with on the following turn as well, which is very good. So I feel like this card still, warrants it being played as a 2 of. But last Exceeds are 1 Gaga Cowboy and 1 number 80 Rhapsody and Berserk. I ended up playing these even though I didn't really want to. I felt like there were better cards I could have put in here. But I found myself in a lot of situations wanting cards that I could just attach a material from immediately, and that's what these just kind of fit in. Like these could easily be other these could either be other Castels or Diamond Dyers, but I felt like these just had better utility in certain game states than just playing a 2nd copy of each of those, because Exotone is gone. But I was just finding myself wanting like a lot of Exceeds that I could use to detach a material like immediately, and that's where these just kind of came in. They could be anything else at this point. I've never really made them that much. Most of the time, if I have the ability to go into Castel or Diamond Dyer after I've like Emerald them back for a 2nd time, I usually end up doing that. But anyway, that is all for this deck profile. Just demonstrating just one of the very potential multiple builds of Nekroz going forward with Shrip Band. Like I said, it is a bit harder to play the deck now, but you do still have the option to play it if you really want to. And I really like this deck. I really like how the deck can adapt. I like the engine and all that. So like, it's definitely got some potential moving forward. I don't even know if it'll be tier 1, but if it is, it's probably going to be the worst tier 1 deck. Right now I see it as like the best tier 2 deck to choose from, because it still just kind of like beats up on everything else that's tier 2 or lower. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to have a video coming out later today with some games of me playing this deck to just demonstrate, certain ways that the deck plays and like things that you can do with it, nonsense like that. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Like the video if you want to support my channel's content now, as well as support my channel's growth in the future. If you want to chat with me, do whatever. Just links are in the description of both my Facebook pages. Go do whatever with those that you see fit or wish to do. Click on that if you have not. I greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. If you have an ad block enabled, do me a favor, take a couple seconds out of your day, disable your ad block, refresh the video, click an ad or two, and when you're done, put your ad block back on. It takes a couple seconds, takes no money out of your pocket, and it helps me out more than you could ever know, and I would be greatly appreciative to you if you could do that for me. And it's a great way to support me right now if that is something that you are interested in doing, supporting me, helping me out in the current point in time that I'm at in life, because I'm pretty sure we all know how life gets at times. But anyway, that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions about this deck in the comments down below. But as always, guys, take care.